just on the rich, not me saying it this time. The president's two top money men all but saying it.
No tax increases for middle-income Americans.
There's a lot that can happen over time.
But you're not ruling it out. You can't rule it out.
Well, I think that what the country needs to do is understand we're going to have to do what it takes. We're going to do what's necessary.
All right, now please do not say that I did not warn you about this. They're not saying, but I am. Taxes are going up a lot, and not just for a few.
I mean, who else do you tax except the wealthiest that can take it?
But that's my point. Once you realize that you're only getting $300 billion from those greedy rich bastards, now you've got to move down the pipe. The president's saying he's going to have this puppy after the first 4 years. I don't see how. Do you? Short of big spending cuts or maybe hiking taxes on more folks. Who's to say that you just don't keep going down the food chain? Former Senator George Allen thinks the middle class will be socked with a tax hike. Joins us right now. Senator, just a matter of time, you think?
Neil, I think you figured out the key. The only way to pay off this enormous debt, unprecedented debt, is either with tax increases and or inflating the currency. And of course, inflating the currency is going to drive up oil prices. It's going to inflate, obviously make the result will be of obviously families hurt and the competitiveness of our country. What they ought to be doing is cutting taxes, inducing rapid depreciation or accelerated depreciation. And the biggest tax that they want to have on everyone is the energy tax, which they're trying to push through with that tax and cap and trade tax scheme, which will increase the cost of energy for everyone, and especially hurting lower and middle income families who use more of their earnings for electricity.
Then why don't they just say it? I mean, you know,
food.
George Bush Sr. said it too late in his presidency to rebound from it. But if you're going to raise taxes, and that's where it looks like we're inevitably going for a lot more folks, get it out of the way now. Get it out of the way 6 months into your presidency, because that's where we're heading, isn't it?
Well, yes, we're heading that way, but President Obama, as a candidate, said he wasn't going to raise taxes on anyone earning over $200,000.
You say that is statistically impossible, right? You can't get there from here. You can't pay for the programs you got from here or deal with the debt we're piling up here unless you share the pain, right?
Exactly, and making our country less competitive and hurting small businesses. But the cap and trade scheme is one clearly that's going to raise the cost of electricity, of food, of clothing, and fuel. And they even admit in their scheme that they have to have energy welfare checks to try to mitigate the harm to small families that or lower income families. And the last thing we need to do is make our country less competitive with more taxes, more regulatory burdens, and of course this enormous debt. And it, you know, they actually ought to learn from the cash from clunkers. If you reduce the price of something, people will actually go out and buy it. If you increase the cost of electricity, of fuel, of natural gas, it's going to hurt families, and it's going to hurt the competitiveness.
Well, but it's too late. It's too late for lessons. Having said that, when the top economic guys,
keep educating.
No, Governor, Senator, I agree with that. You know, you have so many former titles, by the way. It's hard to begin with you. But
George is all right.
George is fine. Okay, Neil, call me Neil. My issue here is that, look, I mean, the top money guys know the skinny, and now the top press guy had to respond to their dodging this issue. Here's what he said today.
Let me be precise. The president's clear commitment is not to raise taxes on those making less than $250,000 a year.
So which is it? Are you going to raise it or not?
Well, there's only two ways to pay off this debt, Neil. It's just very basic, simple economics, and that is raise taxes and or inflate the currency to pay off the debt. And when that happens, people are taxed either directly or indirectly or both. And again, somebody ought to ask Mr. Gibbs, all right, how does the cap and tax scheme affect families? Does that increase their electricity bills, their food bills, their fuel bills in our country? How does that make our country more competitive with countries, whether it's China or India or others, who are not going to burden their people with such taxes? How's that going to help jobs? How's that going to make our country
Details, Governor, details. Silly little factual details. Governor George Allen, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
It's my pleasure, Neil. Thank you.
Meanwhile, stocks up.